Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 309. Yes, 9 as in Niner. Are you talking on a walkie-talkie? I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with pucksandpitchforks.com's editor-in-chief, Nick Villano. Streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. Coming to you live from the Primetime Radio Studios in North and South Jersey bunkers. Talking a little bit about Devils hockey. There's lots to talk about, even though it is August 6, 2025. So what are we talking about, Nick? You're telling me some stuff off air that you want to get off your chest.
Well, let's start with Mr. Bratt. We got some. Hey, listen, every year in August, when there's nothing to talk about, NHL Network does their rankings, position by position, and usually Devils fans are mad about it because our guys are usually perennially underrated. Usually, Jack Hughes doesn't make the top 10 centers list sometimes, which when he's at his best, which makes no sense, or he's not high enough. The Devils wingers never make the list, which is usually asinine. And it's a top 20. You know, it's not a top 10. Top 10, I can understand the argument, but top 20, like it always is asinine. Defensemen never get their just due. Goalie, I can understand. They most years we really have that, but and Nico Hischier is always perennially underrated on these lists. Well, this year, Mama, I made it. The list came out for wingers today, Sam.
Wingers.
Jesper Bratt, 12th on the list. He's ahead, and now you're probably like 12th. That's too low. But let me tell you the names that he beat. Mr. Goal Scorer himself, Alex Ovechkin. He's ahead of Ovechkin. He's ahead of Jason Robertson, the guy you all want. You're begging for Jason Robertson to come to the Devils. Jesper Bratt's ahead of him. Jesper Bratt's ahead of Brandon Hagel of the Tampa Bay Lightning. The man with the second best contract in the NHL, Mr. Brandon Hagel. Devils, Jesper Bratt's ahead of him. And here's the one, Sam. Number 13 on the list. Getting people hot. People are hot about it because Jesper Bratt is ranked ahead of Brady Tkachuk. And people are losing their minds, Sam. They're all up in these comment sections, yelling and screaming. And show me where Tkachuk is better. He's a better grit guy, I guess. But
which
Jesper
Tkachuk?
Bratt,
Which
Brady.
Tkachuk? Brady. Okay.
Matthews better than him. I'm not. Matthews one of the best players in the league. I'm not gonna homerism this one. I think it's about right. I think 12th is about where you want to see Bratt because I think that's where he lands. Bratt has driven lines no matter where he's gone in the lineup. He's often the best guy on the ice. He's just a savant with the puck on his stick, and he finds the open man. He turns his passes into goals. He sets the stage from the neutral zone. He does a lot of really great things, and his skating is superb. Skates through the defense all the time, makes the best plays. And again, his scoring's not where I would hope it is. That's the only thing I wish was a little bit better. I wish he was closer to a 30-goal scorer, but it's just not kind of his game. But that's okay. Maybe he'll get there, maybe he won't. But right now, he's the only player in the league with 80 points and 80 hits. And I know what you're saying, where it's those aren't the hits that you get from Brady Tkachuk. Okay, I guess. But the stats are the stats. I have to go by what the stats are saying. The stats are saying that he is the only player in the league that has 80 points and 80 hits. And when you look at Brady Tkachuk had 59 points last year. Brad is worlds better than him offensively. And Hagel, I think, is a great player. I'm not trying to take anything away from Hagel, but you got to make hard choices on these lists. And I just think Bratt is better. I wouldn't trade Bratt for Brandon Hagel, even with their disparage differences in the contract. I would trade Bratt for Tkachuk. I would trade a lot for Kachuk. I would give Mercer, Nemitz, and 2 first-round picks for Kachuk. I think Kachuk's a really good player that fits exactly what this team needs, but it's because you already have Bratt. Having Bratt on this team is why you need a guy like Kachuk, right? If you trade Bratt for Kachuk, then you're missing the Bratt guy, the points accumulator. So, I look at this list. I'm like, okay, and then I look at the guys ahead of him. You know, number 1 on the list is Nikita Kucherov, which I think is slightly overrated. I think Kucherov is one of the top players in the game, but I would have him 3rd on this list because number 2 is David Pastrnak. Number 3 is Kirill Kaprizov. Kirill Kaprizov is apparently going to be the highest paid player in the league in a couple weeks, and if he's not, apparently he's not going to sign. I don't think he's that. I think Pastrnak is the best wing on the league. I think Pastrnak has cleared everybody. He proved it this year with how he played on that bum Bruins team. And then you got Mikko Rantanen, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, Matthew Tkachuk. I think Tkachuk should be 4. I would put Matthew Tkachuk ahead of Rantanen, ahead of Marner, and ahead of Nylander. Then you have Sam Reinhart, Kyle Connor, Artemi Panarin. I'm kind of fine where everybody is there. And then the only other guy ahead of Bratt is Jake Gensel, which it's fine. I think they're very comparable players, Gensel and Bratt. If you want to say that Gensel's a hair ahead of Bratt, I'm fine with that, which is basically what this list is saying. But what's your initial reaction to that, Sam? What's your initial reaction to where they have Bratt ranked?
I think it's pretty accurate. I don't have a problem with it at all. I think what I want to know is who puts these rankings together? Producers? Interns?
I'm assuming it's an accumulation.
Okay.
Where you get like 20 guys who work at NHL Network to do their top 20, and then there's like a point system kind of thing.
Yeah. But I would say...
That would be how I did it. I don't know that for sure, but that's because nobody... I don't think there's anybody's name attached to it. Like, it's not like Mike Rupp's top 20 or like Corey Schneider's top 20.
Well,
yeah, so I assume it's all the guys.
And this is based on regular season. I mean, since Bratt has gotten that big contract, that extension, he's been good. He's been real good.
Great.
Yeah.
This season might be his best season.
Yeah, and, you know, the fear was, would he regress? He hasn't. He hadn't.
He's gotten better.
He's gotten better, yeah. So you have to be happy as a Devils fan because, remember, he wanted a little bit more than what he got. But in the end, Tom Fitzgerald just stuck it out, and then Bratt probably came back to earth in reality a couple years ago, signs that contract, and it's been worth every penny since then.
Yeah, I remember, and this is the warning I sent to the people who hate on Dawson Mercer. Because I've said, I think Bratt and Mercer have a similar trajectory. I think Bratt is just a better overall talent. So there's a ceiling there for Mercer that Bratt's going to exceed. But we had a lot of people when Bratt was having those 40-point seasons, even some of them were pandemic shortened, but still, he wasn't hitting a point per game. But there was something there that you could see. You're like, okay, like there's a player there. You just have to kind of unlock him. And now he's completely unlocked. You know, I think he's an 80 to 100-point player for the rest of his career. I don't think he's ever going to hit like 120 because, again, I think his goal scoring is too weak to get there.
Well, I mean, who really hits 120? That's the New Jersey Devil. I mean,
nobody's a New Jersey Devil. It's never happened. Never hit 100.
Yeah.
But this is a different team, obviously. Like this is, did Bratt? What did Bratt end up with last year?
A lot of assists. That's what I remember. I don't have the exact stats in front of me, but I'll take a look along with you,
I'm
Nick.
looking right now. He had 88. And And I remember he fell off. But again, he had 21 goals. And again, ideally I want him to be closer to 30. He had 67 assists. I think he was number one amongst wingers for assists. Like 67 is a psychotic number. But if you want this guy to be a 100-point scorer, I just think you got to get 35, 40 goals. And he's only done that once. He did that in 22-23. What? I have to ask, Sam, because I've been looking at the numbers, and the numbers from 22-23, I don't think we appreciated how psychotic they were across the board.
Here are my opinions. I think it's a little bit inflated because back in those days, if you remember, for the first half of the season, the Devils were playing against backup goaltenders. Nobody took the Devils seriously. Really, they were still a young, up-and-coming team, unproven, all that. If Bratt were to get over 100 points, a few things needs to happen. Number one, he has to be durable, which he has been. Number two, Jack Hughes has to be durable as well, because that power play, you can get a lot of goals and a lot of points on that power play. And they were without Jack Hughes down the stretch. I don't know if it was good for Brad or bad for Brad, but, I think Brad has potential to hit that 100-point mark. 120, I think that's insane. But 100 points, a couple things need to have, needs to happen.
He has that something go his way.
Yeah.
It's just the scoring, right? He had 32 goals in 2022-23. But last year, 21. Like, for having such an insane season, when you see that number on paper, it's 21 goals, I need a little bit more out of him. But again, I think the ranking is exactly where it should be. I don't think he needs to go higher. I don't think he's a top 10 winger yet. I think you're going to see a lot of drop-off, though. Like, I think Panarin, with everything happening with Panarin, with the allegations against him, and just with the Rangers, like, I see the Rangers either figuring their stuff out and getting back into it or falling off a cliff and selling the farm, like the farm, and building this team in Mike Sullivan's steed and getting out the old guard. Zibanejad. They've already started it by trading Kreider this offseason. They traded a bunch of other guys already. Trouba, got rid of Gaudreau, Schittle and Kako, and like they've gotten rid of, from that 22-23 team that played the Devils in the playoffs, I think they've gotten rid of at least half the roster.
Wow.
And maybe that's maybe that's the case for the Devils too. The Devils have made some big changes. Because from that team, both goalies are gone. Graves and Severson are gone. Bastion's gone. McLeod is gone. Ball is gone. Sharangovich is gone. Boquist is gone. Lazar is gone.
I don't think it was on that team, was he?
Tatar is gone. Who?
Curtis Lazar on the.
I think they traded for him that season, so I think he was on the team.
Okay.
Only for like a few games, because if you remember that season, like his wife had these terrible complications.
Gotcha.
So that it was late, but he played in the playoffs that year. I'm almost positive. Hall is gone. Wood is gone. Zetterlund's gone. Marino's gone. Brendan Smith is gone. Holtz is gone. Vanacek is gone. I said both goalies. Ahoy Took is gone. Nolan Foote is gone. Akira Schmid is gone. Andreas Janssen, which I forgot played for that team, is gone. He was in the Timo Meier trade though, so he was gone before the playoffs. Blackwood is gone. So the Devils have had a lot of turnover as well, but it hasn't felt like the Rangers, has it? Has it felt like this upending of the team?
Well, the Devils. Number one, there's stark contrast. The Devils had their foundational pieces all along. With Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt. You add in Timo Meyer to the mix. And then, if you want to say Dougie Hamilton, from that team.
Sure.
Basically, the goalies have been revamped. You've got two veteran goaltenders right now that proved themselves last season to be excellent. And the other thing, too, is, the Devils added some youth since then with Luke Hughes and Nemec. Dawson Mercer was also on that team as well in 22, 23. But
they added some veterans, too. They added Pesci. They added Dylan. They added, oh, man. Well, I mean, like, even this offseason, they added Dadonov and Brown. They added a little youth in Gritsik. I fully expect Gritsik to make the team. If you haven't seen it, I found this interview that Gritsik did in Russia with Sports Express. He revealed that there's an out in his contract. So the Devils can't really play around with him. If they keep him, they can't. And when I mean play around, they can't keep him in the AHL all season. And I think that's I know when Dadonov did an interview, when Dadonov did an interview, after he got signed, he said the Devils haven't talked to him about Gritsik, but he'd be happy to help. While the conversation might not have happened, I think the Devils did that for a reason. I don't think they're going to bend over backwards to make Gritsik happy, but I think Gritsik is an important part of this team even if they don't know it yet. I think his skating fits better with the American style of hockey.
You're putting a lot of stock in this kid because I think he's going to be a bust. That's just my opinion.
I think you got Gusev fever. I think you're worried about what happened with Nikita Gusev.
Damian Brunner.
Right, but this kid could skate, and Gusev couldn't skate. At least not at the NHL level. He had rocks in his feet. And I think a lot of that had to do with nerves, right? There was just a lot in the line for him. He was a guy who was used to excelling, and it seemed like he was frustrated when it didn't work out. But I'll tell you this, Sam. I am putting a lot of stock in this kid. One of the reasons why is because I think you kind of have to. And let me lay out the landscape for you, Sam. 8 teams in the Eastern Conference made the playoffs last year. 5 of them came from the Atlantic Division. Toronto got worse, but they won the Atlantic. So they could lose 10 points and still be a playoff team from their previous year's standings. Florida is just defending Stanley Cup champs. They are going to be without Matthew Tkachuk to start the season, but they re-signed basically everybody else. They still got a really good team with them. The Lightning got a little bit better, but they still have a really good team that's going to make the playoffs. The Senators made the playoffs last year and got better this year. They actually had more points than the Devils at the end of last season. And the Montreal Canadiens got phenomenally better. Added Barzal, added Bolduc from the Blues. So they, you're looking at those 5 teams, and again, there's always some craziness that causes a team that you never expect to miss the playoffs to miss the playoffs. You saw that with Boston last year. But I look at the landscape. Then you come over to the Metropolitan. The Carolina Hurricanes didn't rest on their laurels. They got Ehlers from Winnipeg. I think Carolina, I'm probably going to get bit in the butt by saying this, but I think they're as good as they were last year, even with Ehlers. I don't think they're that much better. They still have question marks, but I think they're a pretty good bet to make the playoffs. Washington, unless you get some major regression, which you could, maybe without the Alex Ovechkin chase, it's worse, but They got a little bit better this offseason. They added some pieces, and I love their coach. I think Spencer Carberry is already one of the best coaches in the league. That leaves one Eastern Conference playoff spot, Sam. It's in the Metro, thankfully. And I don't think Philly is going to come anywhere close. I think Columbus is going to regress this year. I'm not that worried about the Islanders. I think this is a figure-it-out year for them under Waugh and Matthew Darsh. And I don't think Pittsburgh's going to be competitive. That leaves two teams fighting for one playoff spot, Sam. That is the Devils and the Rangers. I think it's going to come down to the Devils and the Rangers for that third playoff spot. I think every point's going to matter. And Sam, I think it's going to be one of those years because the Metropolitans are going to be dreadful this year. It's not going to be like last year where everybody was around 80 points and then the top tier teams were like 90 to 100 points. I think it's going to be like, I think Carolina is going to get a lot more points, even if they're the same team. Because I think it's going to be an easy night against Pittsburgh, an easy night against Philadelphia. And I think Columbus and the Islanders are going to be like middle of the pack teams. Like you should be able to beat them on most nights if you're a good team. So I think that these teams are going to allow you to pack on the points. And maybe that helps, the Rangers and the Devils against the Atlantic. Maybe they will get a wild card spot as well because of those extra points that you're getting, those extra games you're getting against the Columbuses and the New York Islanders and the Pittsburghs. But I don't know, man. Like, I don't know of those 5 teams I just mentioned. I don't know which ones I'm picking to miss the playoffs. And I didn't mention Boston, but I think it's a really good team. And obviously Buffalo wants to be good. I just don't think they are. But they could turn the corner anytime. They got great young defensemen, great young goalies, great young forwards. Like they could turn the corner at any time. And Detroit, who's desperate to make the playoffs, who will do desperate things. They could trade for Jason Robertson. They could trade for, I don't know who else is going to be open. Jordan Kyrou. They can make the big boy move, and they got John Gibson to fix their net. That Atlantic is going to be devastating. They're going to beat each other up. But I think 5 teams are going to come out of that. And I think you're going to sit here and it's going to be – we're going to be doing this podcast in March, Sam, and we're going to be looking at those 3 Rangers matchups in March, and they might decide the playoff spot.
Well, we better mark this podcast because you never know. End of March, we may be talking about it.
I think – I just look at it on paper, and I think there's 8. I think there's 4 great teams in the East, and then 6 really good teams or possible really good teams. And I think the Devils are in there. I think the Rangers are in there. I think, the great teams I would put is I think Washington's going to be great again. I think. As long as the goaltending stays healthy or doesn't regress miraculously, I think they're going to be 100 to 115 point team. Somewhere I know that's a wide margin, but either way you're making the playoffs. Same for Carolina, 100 to 110 point team. As long as the goaltending doesn't just completely fall into a crater. And then you have the Devils and the Rangers, who I think are 90 to 100 point teams. But that's where it gets 100 to 110 points. There's not much of a difference. You're making the playoffs. Maybe there's you're a 2 seed instead of a 3 seed. 90 to 100 points is a difference between the 2 or 3 seed and missing the playoffs. So, there's a big wide margin there. Are you worried at all about this team not making the playoffs?
I worry about that every year.
But in a different way. Are you worried? Looking at it, seeing that Palat's still on his team, seeing that they still don't have a third line center. They might try Mercer at that again.
I'm worried that they don't have the health.
I mean, but can't you say that about every team every year?
You can.
Short of like Edmonton and like old school Pittsburgh, where if you lost Crosby, you had Malkin, or if you lose Nick David, you have Draisaitl. Like, if Colorado loses McKinnon, like they suck.
I'm talking about the goaltending. You know, if they what if they?
That's why I think you can't get rid of Dawes. I think you just have to bite the bullet, keep him on the roster.
You know, it's hard to say. I mean, we're still 8 weeks out. You know, for the upcoming season. I just think that I'm not sold on this team. To be honest, I think they're going to be competitive. But like we've had surprises before. Like Washington surprised the heck out of all of us last season in the Metropolitan.
I was big on Washington going into the season.
I want a recording of that, Nick.
It's in the Pucks and Pitchforks season preview.
See, I
said
Washington
Washington
would be right there. I just helped you right there. Yeah.
Now I will say I thought they were going to be like I thought they were going to be like fighting for the 3 or fighting for the wild card. But I just really like Spencer Carberry. I think he's a really good coach. And, I think the Devils missed out on him when they, I think the Devils had a chance to be really bold. And I think our baseball teams are seeing this, Sam, especially the Yankees. The Yankees had a chance to do something bold. And it doesn't always work out because, here's the thing. There's an example for everything in New York sports right now because New York sports is doing everything. You had the Yankees who, Aaron Boone got a contract extension after his World Series run. And you have the Knicks who fired Tom Thibodeau after his Eastern Conference final run. And the same thing with the Devils. I think there's some with the Devils where they held on to Lindy Ruff because he had that phenomenal season. And I think there was a million excuses as to why they lost the Hurricanes in round 2. So I think I don't blame Tom Fitzgerald for going back to Lindy Ruff, but he had a chance to be bold because his contract was up. He went into the offseason with no contract. And they ended up getting it done. They figured it out, but it ended up being a mistake because he didn't even last a full, right? There was the next season he got fired, right? Yeah. So here's where I'm at. I think the Devils are going to make the playoffs. I think there's a world where they're contenders to get out of the Metro, meaning that they would go to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think there's a world where they are that good. With this roster, no trades in the middle of the season, no moves. I don't think there's any world where they go beyond that. I don't think there's any world where they get past the Atlantic Division winner. But I think this team held on to all of its assets, held on to a lot of the major prospects, held on to Dawson Mercer because they know that there's a possibility for a big move during the season. When this was probably, truthfully, Sam, outside of Marner, Ehlers, what was the big move?
What, in the Metro?
Just in general. Who were the big players that got moved this offseason?
They all went out
Marner?
west. Yeah.
Except for Ehlers. Ehlers came to Hurricanes, but some of the biggest signs like Gavrikov in New York, who I think is a good player, but it's I don't even know if Gavrikov is better than Siegenthaler. You know what I mean? I think Gavrikov has the makings to turn into Jacob Trouba by the end of that contract. Jacob Trouba was really good in the beginning of the contract and just regressed immensely.
I'll tell you, there is a path, not a very good one, but I think there is a path for the Devils to get a Stanley Cup Finals. And it would have to be a perfect storm. You want to hear it?
Sure.
If they were to get past the first two rounds, obviously they have to go through probably Carolina. Probably in the second round, you would think?
First or second. It's one of those two, yeah.
Yeah, one of those two. But
I think Carolina's probably the favorite. So then you're looking at Washington in the first round.
Yeah. But out in the Atlantic, what if one of those last wild card teams just happens to get in, just like how the Florida Panthers a few years ago get in on the last day of the season and start ripping it up and has a Cinderella type run and get themselves in the Eastern Conference Finals? Could it be Detroit?
Yeah, I mean, I think Montreal could do that.
Or Montreal?
I think Montreal could do that because Montreal's going to take some time to gel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I feel about Marty St. Louis as a coach yet. I think he did a good job last year. You remember playing Montreal. Like, they didn't seem like a good team. You know what I mean? Like, something weird happened at the end of the season where they just put together a really crazy campaign. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Montreal could get into the wild card. And like, here's the thing, Sam, is like, I think Tampa's vulnerable. They've been vulnerable. Did Tampa make it out of the first round last year? No, they lost to Florida, right?
Yeah.
Pretty precipitously. It was like 5 games, right?
Yep.
Toronto, I don't like what they did. I was fine with getting rid of Marner. There's a time where you just have to say goodbye, even though it's a good player. They end up getting what, Nicholas Roy in return? Okay, sure. I don't know if, I think they could have moneyballed it. We're like, all right, like, when the main premise of Moneyball is that they lost Jason Giambi and they had to replace Jason Giambi. It's like, well, you're not going to get a guy who hits 40 home runs, 100 RBIs, and hits 310. But if you count his total bases and you replace those, then you can. I just don't think the Leafs did that. I think they could have, get 3 guys for that $11 million who do what Marner does and spread them throughout the lineup. I don't think they did that. I don't think they got good enough from that. And they're like, I look at their roster, Sam, they're so top heavy. So I think that they're vulnerable too. So I do think it could happen. I think if Montreal gets hot, I think it could be Ottawa, but I think it's more likely to be Montreal just because Montreal kind of has a little bit of moxie. But if Montreal gets hot, beats, I guess in the scenario, Florida's the number 1 seed, which seems unlikely with Tkachuk hurt so long, but any of these teams could be the number 1 seed. Let's say it's Tampa. Tampa gets the number 1 seed. I think that they're vulnerable to get beat by Montreal. And then Montreal plays the winner of Florida and Toronto. I think Florida would win that, especially if they have Tkachuk healthy. But I said this to you, I don't remember if it was last week or the week before. I covered that Tampa Bay Lightning team that went to back-to-back-to-back Stanley Cup final. That's what we don't talk about, that they went to 3 in a row. They talk about it a little bit just because Florida just did it, but we don't talk about the one they lost. We talk about the 2 in a row they won, but you play the same amount of games usually when you win or you lose, right? Like, Stanley Cup Finals still happened. They've been out of gas since then. You run out of gas when you're playing 100 games a year for the next year. And then, you hear the story that Matthew Tkachuk delayed a surgery so he could get married. And, like, good for him for having the gravitas to be able to make that demand. But he's not going to be 100%. First of all, he's returning for the Olympics. That sounds insane. I don't know. I can't see there's any way he's going to be 100% at the Olympics, but whatever. Ignoring that for a second. I think that Tkachuk and Florida is vulnerable. And then you're the Devils. I think they could beat Carolina. As currently constructed, I think they could beat Carolina. I think they could beat Washington. As currently constructed. I think they could beat Montreal, even a hot Montreal. What's his name? Noah Dobson's playing out of his mind. Lane Hudson's getting empty calorie points left and right. You got a real, Yaroslav Koski finally turns into something a little bit better than what he's been so far. Cole Caulfield scores 40 goals. Nick Suzuki plays as well as Nico Hischier. Is that like his ceiling? Yeah, if you get all that, I think that they can get hot and get to the Eastern Conference Final. But I think the Devils can beat them too. So I think there is a path to get to the Stanley Cup Final. A lot has to go right. Jacob Markstrom has to be great. Jack Hughes has to stay healthy. That's number one and number two, in my opinion. Those are the two most important things. You have to have a great season from Jacob Markstrom. You have to have a healthy Jack Hughes. And the rest of the stuff is, I need Kovacevic to play just as well as he did in the first half. I need Luke Hughes to take 3 steps forward. 3. I think that he did so many great things last year, but in the aggregate, it wasn't a good enough season for the contract he's about to demand. I need Nemitz to be an everyday player. And you'll figure that out with the Kovacevic thing later. He needs to be an everyday player. He needs to be good. And you need to find a third winger. You got Timo Meier. You got Jesper Bratt. Who's your third top 6 winger? I think you could survive with one who's variable, whether it's a Nason who's there for one specific thing, or a Palat who's there for kind of just those moments where he can be, I think of that time. Help me. You're going to have to help me out with this, Sam. Do you remember the game where Palat stole the puck at the entry line? They were still in the offensive zone. They lost the puck. One of the guys on the other team tried a cross-ice pass. Palat came up, stole it, had a takeaway, handed it to Hughes. I think it was a tic-tac-toe play for a Bratt goal. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Was it like when he first came to the team, or was this last year?
No, this was last season.
I vaguely remember.
Anyway, he can make those plays still. They're just inconsistent. And he makes just as big of mistakes at this point. But let's say you get a 15-goal, 40-point performance for Palat. You could survive with one of those guys in your top 6, but you need either, you said I was high in Gritsik. You either need Gritsik to be good off the bat, which I think is unlikely. I think you really want him to be a third-line scorer, or you need Dawson Mercer to be what he was supposed to be last year. Dawson Mercer was supposed to take a step to the 60 to 7-point plateau last year, and he just didn't. You need that to happen this year, and that needs to be the consistent player that he is. I think he has the talent to do it. I think he had a lot of trouble with Sheldon Keefe's system. I think an offseason to really bang into the tape, I think you can do it. I've been somebody who's really high in Paul Cotter. I've done a ton of research on it. I don't know if he has the capability to do it. He has the talent to do it. I don't know if he has the capability. It's the best way I can put it without insulting him. So I think your options are down to 2. I don't really want Connor Brown there. I don't really want I don't even know who's an option. Right? Who else would even be an option at that point? I think they try Connor Brown. Maybe they do Brian Hallinan. Maybe Brian Hallinan takes 3 steps forward.
I don't know, Nick.
I gave you a lot of options. I think that training camp is going to be so interesting. I'm really excited for it. Next month, I'm going to write an article about the training camp battles.
I think the key is Luke Hughes right now, if you ask me.
Yeah. His contract or just his progression?
All the above.
Sure. Yeah. Would you lose your mind if he signed a 2-year contract?
No, I would not lose my mind.
Because here's the thing: is that the worry with a 1-year contract, if you're like, let's just like table this, let's get you in the door, let's get you under the salary cap for now, and revisit this next year, is that the Canucks still have Quinn Hughes and they could do something stupid. But put the Devils in a really bad spot, like sign Luke Hughes for a $14 million contract, right? Now, if you give him 2 years, well, and Quinn Hughes is a free agent, and you can kind of connect their contracts a little bit more. So, I could see it happening. I wouldn't love it, especially because if you sign a 2-year contract, then you're definitely under the new CBA. I will say, Sam, I am now confused about when some of the contract rules for the new CBA go into effect. Because the CBA, I found this out on the 32 Thoughts podcast. CBA starts September 15th, not July 1st. So I'm not sure if you can sign Luke Hughes to a 1-year deal and then extend him for 8 years in January, or if that has to be 7 as per the new CBA. That I don't know that. I've been trying to find the answer, and there's nothing that's clear. So I know I've said before that he'd only be able to sign a 7-year deal after this year. That is now unclear. So I apologize if that turns out to not be true. But, the CBAs are complicated, and I got doozied.
I'll tell you what, if I were Luke Hughes, I would sign an 8-year deal now if the Devils were going to offer it. Only because I think he may be injury prone, just like Jack.
I mean, maybe, but he's bigger than Jack.
Yeah. But they still, both of them have shoulder issues, ironically.
What was Quinn Hughes' injury last year?
Wasn't it a shoulder?
Was it a shoulder?
No, sorry, not Quinn. Sorry, you said Quinn.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
The one that made him miss the 4 Nations. I can't remember what it was. If that was the shoulder, then I'd actually be worried. I'm not usually like a big fan of this because, again, I want to remind people this year's was it last year? The one where he fell on the ice, that was a worrisome injury because it was self-inflicted. He just fell on the ice and hurt his shoulder. That was the one that was worrisome. The one from this past season, the one where Jack Eichel dirtily hit him. And yes, I just made up the word dirtily. He dirtily hit him. He tripped him up and sent him flying to the boards at full speed. I have trouble blaming him for it. I think if it happened to Brad Marchand or Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid, I think they're all going to get shoulder injuries. So, maybe they don't get knocked out for the season, which is why and that was the thing. It happening when it happened, Hughes actually got out of the brace pretty quick. He's been able to build some muscle, which is what he's been trying to do the past couple of off seasons, but injuries have kind of hurt that approach. This off season's been different. So, I agree with you. There's a lot of concern with Luke Hughes. The contract, the injury, the making the leap. How does he fit in Sheldon Keefe's system? Sheldon Keefe's system's hard. You have to be the right type of player to fit in it. And I think, Sam, the defense was really good last year, so I think it masked a lot of it. But there were moments where Brett Pesce had trouble with it and didn't know the decision he was supposed to make. It seemed. I don't want to speak for him, but I think that led to a lot of the troubles with getting the puck out of the defensive zone was people just trying to remember what they were supposed to do in the system because it's complicated. Brendan Dillon, same thing. And they're on new teams. So my point that I'm making here is I don't think that's going to be a problem this year. I think they're going to be much better at getting the puck out of their own zone. And with that, Luke Hughes is going to have the confidence to skate the puck out of the zone on his own again and do what he's best at. So I think he's going to have a better season.
Well, I sure hope so, Nick. By the way, speculation was Quinn Hughes had a lower body hernia
Lower
injury.
body. Okay.
Yeah, that was but speculation.
Yeah, sure. I just I thought it was lower body, but I wanted to see if anybody remembered if it was a shoulder or not. Yeah. Here's the deal. I think the Devils are built to sustain, but they're also, Sam, built to make a trade. This is a team that, just like they had a similar situation when they got Timo Meier. This is a team with a clear need and the assets to make it happen. And I don't see why they couldn't do it again. I think that's why you make a deal for like a Shane LaChance, where you take on salary and get a free prospect. Shane LaChance is a guy that like a Ducks or a Red Wings, somebody like that could want. And you, not that they'd be the it's like a Hoytuk. He's not the guy you're going to build a trade around, but like adding him in has a lot of value. I think getting prospects like that really puts you over the top when you're competing against other teams for these star players. I think there was a reason why Tom Fitzgerald said that Shane LaChance is going to compete for a roster spot. And it's not because I think he thinks he's going to compete for a roster spot. But that's just me.
Well,
anyway, we're at 9:30. Do you want to do plugs?
Yeah, we'll do plugs.
Okay. We're going to have a lot of articles on this Jesper Bratt ranking just because I think there's a lot there. John Bailey is writing the news story right now. I think I'm going to write just the dichotomy of him and Brady Tkachuk because I just think it's interesting. I wrote 5 contract comparables to Luke Hughes that both the Devils and Luke Hughes should use. That includes Noah Dobson and obviously Brock Faber. I think both of those are great comparables to look. Here's what it's going to take to get it done. We have a article on Ilya Kovalchuk and how he could retire soon. So if you want the details on that, go to puckspittricks.com. We're going to have a lot more articles. We're going to have articles all day, all night. I'll be writing a couple after this podcast. Definitely the one on Brady Tkachuk and Jesper Bratt. But also, I don't know. I have a couple in my head that I just have to decide which one I really... Oh, it's Arena Week at Fansided. So we're going to have a couple stories on the Prudential Center, including the story of how they almost moved to Hoboken.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to read it on pucksandpitchforks.com.
Yeah, that's coming this week.
Yeah, I remember when that rendering came out. I was like, wow, that really looks like a barn.
Yeah.
It really, and then you see the New York City skyline in the background across the river.
Yeah, I think it was buying a little too much into the New York City aspect of it. So I'm kind of happy it never happened. Also, Hoboken's like further than New York, north from a lot of us.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, I'd like to thank all those tuning in, dropping the podcast at midnight. We'll see you next week. Till next time, let's go Devils.